A 42-year-old woman enters Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom for what appears to be a routine speeding ticket. But she does not allow him to complete even a single sentence. Her repeated interruptions and dismissive tone test the patience of one of America's most understanding judges, pushing the situation to a point that demands firm direction. This is the case of Karen Whitfield, and it illustrates what happens when entitlement clashes with steady, consistent justice. It also shows why Judge Frank Caprio's response became an example of how to manage disruptive conduct professionally. Where are you watching from today? Chicago, London, Miami. Share your city in the comments. This lesson about respect and responsibility in a courtroom applies everywhere. If you've ever had to deal with someone who constantly talks over others, tap the like button and share your most challenging interruption experience below. You're about to see why continually interrupting Judge Caprio was one of the worst choices Karen could have made, and also the moment that provided her with an important lesson. This story highlights the importance of listening and the consequences of assuming your voice carries more weight than those around you. Stay through to the end, because Judge Caprio's closing remarks to Karen present a clear and thoughtful message. Tuesday morning, 10:15 a.m., Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio begins his session reviewing the day's docket. Parking violations, standard traffic issues, and routine municipal cases. Nothing unusual. Then one case stands out. Karen Whitfield, age 42, cited for driving 65 mph in a 35 mph school zone. The officer's report notes argumentative behavior and refusal to accept the citation cooperatively. Judge Frank Caprio, now 77, has developed a calm, almost meditative patience over his many years on the bench. He has reviewed thousands of traffic cases, encountered every kind of personality, and refined the skill of maintaining courtroom order while still showing understanding. Today, that patience is about to be challenged more than usual. The gallery has around 20 people waiting for their hearings. Mrs. Rodriguez sits quietly with her parking ticket documents. 3 college students quietly discuss their noise violation citations from a recent party. Officer Thompson, who issued Karen's speeding citation, sits toward the back, already appearing uneasy. The court stenographer, Janet Mills, reviews her equipment and looks over the schedule, her 3 decades of experience telling her this may be notable. At 10:20 a.m., the bailiff calls Karen's case. The courtroom doors open, and in walks a woman wearing a high-end business suit, carrying a designer handbag, her blonde hair styled perfectly, and an expression indicating she has more pressing places to be. Karen Whitfield is the owner of a successful real estate firm located in the upscale east side of Providence. She has built her career on assertive negotiation, frequently speaking over clients and competitors and rarely accepting refusal. Her approach to challenges is direct and forceful, pushing through objections with confident speech. But Judge Caprio's courtroom is not a real estate office, and legal authority is not something to be negotiated. "Good morning, Miss Whitfield," Judge Caprio says, his tone steady and formal. "You are here today regarding a speeding citation issued on Elmwood Avenue. Before we—" "Your Honor, I need to clarify something immediately," Karen interjects, cutting him off before he can complete his introduction. "The speed limit sign is completely obstructed by tree branches. The city has not maintained proper visibility." Judge Caprio's expression changes slightly. Those familiar with him notice a small tightening around the eyes, an early indication that his well-known patience is being tested. "Ms. Whitfield, I understand you have concerns. But if you would please, Your Honor," she continues, "I pay significant property taxes in this city, over $18,000 a year, and I believe that gives me the right to expect clear and maintained traffic signage. Hidden signs create unsafe conditions for residents who are simply trying to follow the law. And further," she goes on, "this city should support local business owners, rather than creating administrative barriers through poorly managed enforcement, practices that seem more focused on generating revenue than promoting safety." The court reporter pauses, looking up from her notes. Officer Thompson quietly shakes his head. Mrs. Rodriguez grips her purse with discomfort at the tone in the room. A pair of college students exchange uneasy, wide-eyed looks. Judge Caprio lowers his paperwork carefully, an intentional action that those who regularly attend his court recognize. He is nearing the limit of his patience. "Miss Whitfield, I'm going to ask you to, Your Honor," she interrupts again. "I have reviewed municipal traffic regulations, and I believe there are constitutional concerns regarding due process when— Stop. The single word echoes through the courtroom with authority. Karen steps back, genuinely surprised that she has been stopped. Judge Frank Caprio rises slowly, his 77-year-old presence carrying the full weight of the bench. The room becomes completely still. Even quiet murmurs fade. "Miss Whitfield," he begins, "you have been in my courtroom for 4 minutes, and in that time you have interrupted me 7 times. This behavior is not acceptable." Karen's expression tightens with frustration. "Your Honor, I was only trying to clarify the circumstances surround—" 8 times, Judge Caprio interjects, calm but firm. "You just did it again." Karen moves to continue, but the judge raises his hand. His focused expression finally makes her pause. "In my courtroom there is a procedure. I speak and you listen. I ask a question and you answer it. I do not request lengthy explanations about traffic planning, tax policy, or your opinions on city administration." Karen's face turns red. For 20 years she has led meetings, guided negotiations, and succeeded by speaking quickly and assertively. She is not used to encountering someone who cannot be interrupted or worn down. "Your Honor, I have a right to defend myself against charges that are clearly—" 9 times, Judge Caprio says. "Miss Whitfield, you appear unable to grasp that this is not a business negotiation, where raising your voice or overwhelming others helps you. This is a court of law. Here, respect for procedure and authority determines how we move forward." Karen adjusts her posture. Her professional habits return. In real estate, persistence and firm posture often break down resistance. She decides to use the same approach with Judge Caprio. "Your Honor, with full respect, I believe you're placing too much emphasis on procedural technicalities, when the real matter is the city's failure to maintain traffic signage, which results in municipal liability." Judge Caprio lowers his voice, yet the tone carries more weight than any raised volume. "Miss Whitfield, you have interrupted me 9 times. Your conduct reflects disregard for this court, disrespect toward the judicial system, and a lack of basic courtroom etiquette. But, Your Honor, that makes 10. The courtroom falls silent. Officer Thompson appears noticeably uneasy. The stenographer works quickly to document the unusual exchange. Karen's face is now flushed, a mix of frustration and embarrassment. "Your Honor, I am only attempting to present a defense against what I see as an unfair citation stemming from municipal oversight." Judge Caprio removes his glasses, wipes them calmly, and looks directly at Karen, a look that has commanded attention for more than 40 years. "Miss Whitfield, allow me to explain something about respect and authority. In your profession, you may be used to speaking over others, controlling discussions, and overcoming resistance through constant argument. That approach does not apply here. Once you enter this courtroom, that behavior stops." Karen finally stops speaking, though her expression makes it clear she is preparing to argue again rather than actually listening. "You entered my courtroom today believing your usual methods would succeed here. You assumed that by speaking rapidly, challenging every point, and pushing forward without pause, you could pressure this court into the result you wanted." Judge Caprio steps out from behind his bench, a rare action, standing where Karen must face him directly. "But here is what you did not recognize. Miss Whitfield, this courtroom is grounded in respect. Respect for the law, respect for the legal process, and respect for the people involved." Judge Caprio returns to his seat, yet his authority seems to command the entire room. Karen stands there, perhaps for the first time in a long time, without a response. "Miss Whitfield, your original violation was speeding in a school zone. The fine was $185 with an additional $50 in court costs, a straightforward matter that should have taken only a few minutes to resolve." Karen adjusts her designer handbag. The assertive confidence she typically relies on noticeably reduced. "However, your conduct today has changed the situation significantly. Your repeated interruptions, your confrontational tone, and your disregard for the procedures of this court amount to contempt of court." The statement appears to stop Karen entirely. In her professional environment, assertiveness is encouraged. Speaking over others is common. Refusing to concede is treated as determination. But this is not a business negotiation. "Your Honor, I did not mean any disrespect. I was only—" 11 times, Judge Caprio interjects. Karen immediately falls silent. "Miss Whitfield, Criminal contempt of court carries penalties of up to 6 months in jail and fines up to $1,000. Your behavior here has turned a routine traffic matter into a potentially criminal issue. For the first time, Karen shows genuine concern. Her familiar strategy of forceful conversation has no solution for consequences that cannot be negotiated away. Judge Caprio continues, "Your complete inability to show basic respect in this courtroom raises concerns about your professionalism. This could impact your real estate license. The Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation takes conduct very seriously." Karen's face turns pale. Her real estate license represents 15 years of building her career, forming a client base and the financial stability that has shaped her identity. "Your Honor, surely you can't," she begins. But Judge Caprio's expression stops her immediately. For the first time, she recognizes the seriousness of the moment. "Miss Whitfield," Judge Caprio says steadily, "I want you to understand that your behavior today isn't only about disrespecting me. You've shown disregard for a judicial process that relies on mutual respect and proper conduct." He gestures toward the gallery, where others are observing the proceedings, allowing the silence to emphasize his point. "In your professional work, you may believe that speaking the loudest or controlling the conversation leads to results. Perhaps those methods have brought you success." He pauses briefly. "But there are places in our society where those approaches do not work. In fact, they can create serious consequences." Karen gives a small nod, the first sign that she may actually be listening rather than preparing to argue again. "This courtroom is one of those places. Here, respect is non-negotiable. Order is required, and authority is not something you debate or challenge." Judge Frank Caprio leans back slightly, his expression shifting from firm authority to something closer to sincere guidance. The courtroom remains silent, everyone aware that something meaningful is taking place. "Miss Whitfield," he begins, "I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm going to give you a choice in how we proceed." Karen looks up with a cautious sense of hope. But Judge Caprio's steady expression makes it clear this is not the kind of negotiation she is used to. "Choice 1, he continues, "I find you in criminal contempt of court. That would mean the maximum fines, the possibility of jail time, and potential consequences regarding your real estate license. Based on your behavior today, that outcome would be fully justified." Karen's face loses color again. "Choice 2, he says, is that you show you are willing to learn from this experience. But that choice comes with conditions that are not open for negotiation." Judge Caprio leans forward slightly, his voice firm but sincere. "If you choose the second option, you will spend the next hour in this courtroom observing how other cases are handled. You will watch how respectful defendants speak to this court. You will see how order and mutual respect are necessary for justice to work at all." Karen starts to respond but stops herself and nods. "During that hour, you will not speak unless asked. You will observe how effective communication requires listening, patience, and respect, not pushing your own agenda ahead of the process." He continues, "After observing the other cases, you will return to address your original speeding citation. At that time, you will be expected to demonstrate an understanding of appropriate courtroom conduct." Judge Caprio rises once again, his presence steady and authoritative. "But here is what I want you to truly understand, Miss Whitfield. This is not simply about courtroom procedure. It is about basic respect for others and for the systems that support our communities." He steps closer, speaking directly to her. "In your career, you've succeeded by being assertive, by speaking louder, faster, and refusing to yield. Those strategies may be effective in business negotiations, but they fail in personal relationships, in community involvement, and in any environment where cooperation and respect are essential." He then gestures toward Mrs. Rodriguez, who has been waiting quietly for her case to be heard. Mrs. Rodriguez has not interrupted anyone today. She has not requested special consideration because of her taxes or business reputation. She has shown the same courtesy toward this process that she would expect from others. "So here is your decision, Miss Whitfield. You may continue believing that forceful behavior and dominating conversations represent strength and competence. If so, I will regard you as someone who chooses confrontation over cooperation, and you will be subject to the full consequences for contempt of court." Karen lightly shakes her head, showing perhaps the first real sign of humility. "Or, you may recognize that there are environments in our society where listening holds more importance than speaking, where respect is valued over aggression, and where understanding others' viewpoints leads to better outcomes than overwhelming them with your own voice. Judge Caprio sits back down at his bench. "What is your choice, Miss Whitfield?" Karen takes a steady breath, and when she responds, her tone is quiet and respectful for the first time. "Your Honor, I choose to learn. I would like to observe how this court works." Judge Caprio nods with approval. "Ms. Whitfield, please take a seat in the back row. For the next hour, you will simply observe, without comment, how respectful interaction with this court is conducted." Karen walks to the back of the courtroom, her designer heels sounding softly across the floor. For likely the first time in years, she is preparing to listen more than she speaks. "Mrs. Rodriguez, please approach the bench." The elderly woman rises carefully, holding her parking citation in her hands. Karen watches as she approaches with quiet respect. "Good morning, Your Honor," Mrs. Rodriguez says gently, her English touched with an accent. "I am here about a parking ticket." Judge Caprio's expression shifts, warm, patient, and genuinely attentive. "Tell me what happened." Mrs. Rodriguez: "Your Honor, I parked in front of my daughter's house to help with the new baby. I stayed too long in the 2-hour parking zone. I understand I broke the rule, but the baby was crying, and my daughter needed help." Karen watches, unexpectedly attentive, as Judge Caprio listens fully before speaking. "Mrs. Rodriguez, what was the fine?" $75, Your Honor. "It's difficult for me because I'm on a fixed income, but I understand that I was at fault." Judge Caprio pauses for a moment. "Mrs. Rodriguez, you accepted responsibility for your mistake. You showed respect for this court and explained your situation clearly and sincerely." He reviews the citation. "The fine is reduced to $25, payable within 60 days. And congratulations on becoming a grandmother." Mrs. Rodriguez's expression brightens with appreciation. "Thank you, Your Honor. You are very kind." As she leaves, she passes Karen and offers a warm smile. Karen realizes she has just seen something unfamiliar in her competitive business environment: respect and understanding. Next, a college student approaches, visibly nervous but polite. "Your Honor, we're here regarding the noise complaint at our apartment." "Tell me what happened," Judge Caprio says, giving them his attention. "We held a party that became too loud. Our neighbor contacted the police and we received a citation for disturbing the peace." "We're truly sorry." Karen watches as Judge Caprio asks clarifying questions, listens to their explanation about midterm pressure and poor judgment, and then offers his decision. "You will perform 20 hours of community service at a local senior center. You will help older residents with technology and daily tasks. This will help you understand that being good neighbors means considering how your choices affect others." The students accept respectfully, thanking him for providing a constructive way to make things right. An hour later, Judge Frank Caprio calls Karen forward to discuss her original speeding charge. Her attitude is noticeably different now. The confident posture, the impatience, and the familiar tone are gone. "Miss Whitfield, you have now seen how this court operates when everyone shows mutual respect. Are you ready to address your speeding citation appropriately?" Karen nods. "Yes, Your Honor." "Tell me about the circumstances of your citation." Karen takes a steady breath. "Your Honor, I was driving 65 mph in a 35 mph school zone on Elmwood Avenue. Officer Thompson stopped me and issued the citation. I was speeding because I was late for a business meeting, and I prioritized my schedule over safety." Judge Caprio notices her change in tone. She is now accepting responsibility rather than shifting blame. "Argued with Officer Thompson during the stop because I was frustrated. I was disrespectful to him, just as I was initially disrespectful to you in this court." She looks toward the gallery where some people still wait. "Your Honor, observing how you handled the other cases today showed me something I've neglected in both my professional and personal life. When people feel respected and listened to, they respond with honesty and cooperation. When people feel challenged or uncertain, they often react by becoming defensive or untruthful. For 15 years in real estate, I believed that assertive negotiation and dominating conversations were signs of strength and effectiveness. But observing Mrs. Rodriguez, those students, and others today made me realize that my approach has often created conflict rather than resolving issues." Judge Caprio nods, recognizing sincere realization instead of rehearsed statements. "Your Honor, I exceeded the speed limit in a school zone placing student safety at risk because I assumed my business meeting was more important than public safety. I accept full responsibility for that decision. Karen's tone now reflects authentic regret, rather than the earlier resistance. I also want to apologize to you, Officer Thompson, and to everyone present here for the disrespectful way I conducted myself. I came here expecting special treatment because of my professional accomplishments and the taxes I pay. Judge Frank Caprio observes her quietly for a moment, his years of experience indicating that her shift in perspective is real. Miss Whitfield, what you've shown today is significant. You demonstrated that people can learn, adjust their attitudes, and choose respect instead of force when they understand the real impact of their actions. Karen waits respectfully for him to continue. Your original fine was $185 along with $50 in court fees. However, your willingness to genuinely learn from this situation and your sincere apology warrant acknowledgement. He considers his words. The fine will be reduced to $100 plus court costs. More importantly, you have gained an understanding that respect for others and respect for established procedures lead to far better outcomes than aggressive behavior ever will. Judge Caprio extends his hand toward her. Miss Whitfield, I hope you remember this lesson in your business dealings, your personal life, and in all future interactions with public officials. Karen shakes his hand with appreciation. Your Honor, this has been the most meaningful professional lesson I have ever received. Thank you for your understanding and guidance. Before exiting, Karen approaches Officer Thompson to apologize personally. He acknowledges her change in attitude with a respectful nod. Karen Whitfield's experience reminds us that genuine strength does not come from overpowering others verbally, but from recognizing the value of their voice and perspective. Judge Frank Caprio once again showed that meaningful change often comes not from punishment, but from guidance and example. Now consider this for ourselves. How often do we interrupt others because we assume our viewpoints matter more? When was the last time we listened with the intent to understand, rather than simply waiting to respond? Karen learned that in courtrooms, workplaces, and homes, respect for others and respect for the process lead to better results than force or pressure. Sometimes, the most impactful choice is to pause, listen, and understand. If this story encouraged you to reflect on your own communication style, press like, subscribe for more Judge Caprio insights, and share in the comments a moment when listening made a difference for you. Remember Karen's lesson. Respect leads to better outcomes than aggression, every time.